We've reached John's Gospel, chapter 14, where Jesus comforts his disciples. He says in verses 1 to 4, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God, trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going there to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may also be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going." Now, this is often thought of as a kind of a standalone passage where Jesus is talking to his disciples in general. But the beginning of chapter 14 indicates a kind of a break. But I think that it follows on much more naturally from what has just been said to Peter. Peter has just been rebuked, really. We've just seen at the end of chapter 13, Peter said he would lay down his life for Jesus. And Jesus said, "Really? You think you'll lay down your life for me? Well, I tell you, before the night is out, before dawn rises, you will have denied me 3 times. And it's at that point, exactly that point, that Jesus then says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me." Now, it's not surprising that that is the natural response here. Jesus has just said to his disciples that he is leaving them, and that he's leaving in such a way that they can't follow him. There's going to be a disruption, a division between them, a disjointed disconnect where Jesus is going, they won't be able to follow. That will trouble them anyway. Peter then says, "Wait a minute, Lord, I'm not going to let you go that easily because I want to be with you wherever you are, and I'll even lay down my life for you. I'll be so strongly connected to you." And Jesus says to him, "Really? Well, actually, you're going to deny me in just a few short hours, and you're going to deny me not once but 3 times. That kind of rebuke amongst the disciples must have troubled all of them. And it must have troubled Peter more than anyone else. How can that be? He didn't doubt what Jesus said because he's known to trust everything he's always said is true. But can you imagine the feelings that Peter must have had at that point? Troubling his spirit must have been a mild way of putting it. And all the other disciples too, who would have heard that, would have known something cataclysmic is going to happen here. Because Peter, who is the most strongly committed of all of the disciples, who shows such a powerful connection and allegiance to Jesus at all times, he is going to deny Christ. All the disciples would have thought that would be impossible. Peter would have said that would be impossible. Something cataclysmic is going to happen. And naturally, they are incredibly troubled by it. And that consternation must have rippled through everyone from Peter out towards all of the others. So it's not at all surprising that in that context, Jesus says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me." Now, seen in that context, what that means is, yes, Peter, you will deny me. Yes, Peter, you will forsake me. Yes, you will leave me to one side. But don't be troubled by that. That can be overcome. Trust in God. Trust also in me. I will not forsake you. You may forsake me. You may even deny me 3 times, but I will not forsake you. I am going so that I may prepare a place for you, so that you might come and be where I am. And you will not be cast adrift. You will not be set to one side. You will not be denied or left bereft of me. He says, trust in God, trust also in me. In other words, despite this trouble which is coming, despite the calamities which are concerning you. Trust me, because I will get you through this time. That's basically what's being said. And in my Father's house are many rooms, and if it were not so, I would have told you. I'm not going to cast you adrift, and though you might deny me, Peter, I am going to prepare a place for you and for all of the others. You will be where I am. Yes, you might deny me, but don't let yourself be troubled, because I will come and gather you and bring you back to be with me. I'm going a place where you can't go at the moment. In my Father's house are many rooms. The idea that is, he's speaking here of heaven. He's speaking here of the abode with God, whatever that might be. We can't really grasp the nature of that. But that idea of a place with God is not a solitary place. You know, the idea that runs through the entirety of John's Gospel here is that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That idea that Jesus and the Father were together may imply to some not only a uniqueness there, but also an exclusivity. And what Jesus is saying here is there is no exclusivity, because as I can be with God, so you can be too. Because in God's house, in heaven, in whatever that place is where God dwells, there is room for many more. And I am going there to prepare a place. What does prepare a place mean? Well, I suppose that means that he's going to make room in heaven for his disciples and for his followers. How does he make room in heaven for that? It's part of the atonement, the dying in the place of those who should die for themselves. And if they died to themselves, for themselves, there would be no place in heaven. Jesus goes to prepare a place by dying in their stead, and thus enabling them to face God and to share a place with God. He's preparing a place for them by his own death and resurrection. But Peter, do not be troubled by what I've just said to you, because I'm going to prepare a place for you. You're not abandoned, even though you may abandon me at the time. Even though things might seem very dark and bleak, I am still working in such a way as to come back and gather you together to be with me. There's great comfort in these words. And if it were not so, I would have told you. If it was just me going and you're left to your own devices and that's the end of the matter, then I'd have told you that. But that's not how things are. I'm going to prepare a place for you so that you can come and be with me, even though you might deny me, even though you might fail and stumble, even though you might fall over, even though you might collapse and deny me personally. Nevertheless, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Trust in me, and I will get you through it. That's the implication here. And if I go and prepare a place for you, then I will come back and take you to be with me, so that you also may be where I am. And there is the ultimate comfort for somebody like Peter, who sees huge riches and indeed life itself within the connection with Jesus, who sees the only guiding light that he's ever known. Someone who sheds light in the world and who brings him close to God, and someone to whom he doesn't want to be separated from, despite the weaknesses which naturally engage him and all of us. Nevertheless, Jesus says, if you trust in me, I will come back and I will take you to be with me where I am. I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am, and you know the way to the place where I am going. implication here, I think, is this is a big barrier to cross, and it's a barrier which will bring life itself to an end, but it will not bring your existence to an end, because you will still be with me. And in the same way that I can guarantee that, and I guarantee it through my resurrection, so I guarantee it for you as well. That's the power here of this, and the importance of what the resurrection is about. Because if there is no resurrection, as Paul says, then we are to be greatly pitied that we follow something which is just empty and vain at the end of the day. But if there is a resurrection, if there is an ability to cross that great divide between the living and the dead, and beyond that divide there is a house with many mansions, and if there is a place which is being prepared by Jesus Christ himself, then there is hope, says Jesus. Trust in God, trust also in me, and I will see you through it. And even though you might know that the way to the place where I'm going is a difficult route, one which is not easy to get over, nevertheless, I am going to prepare a place for you.